At one point, when I was just out of my undergrad, I had a house, a mortgage, a new car, student loans, and credit card debt. So that was a real eye opener for me. I ended up having to get 2 other jobs.
Mandy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing us to interview you and for your support to the Moneymalistic channel. So let's get started. How old are you?
I'm 53,
Excellent. And where are you from?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, nice. Now, what is your highest level of education?
I have a Master's of Science degree in nursing, and I'm a board certified dermatology nurse practitioner.
Oh, wow. What do you do for a living?
Actually, right now, I'm a domestic engineer, is probably my main occupation, but I have been recently getting into acting. So,
Wow. For how long were you a nurse?
oh, wow, over 30 years.
Wow. What was your favorite thing about nursing?
The people,
Oh,
yeah, my patients, for sure.
excellent. Now, what social class were you growing up?
I was lower to middle class.
Were there any struggles?
Yes, definitely. My mom was a single mom by the time I was age 4, so that caused some issues. There was always battles about child support not being enough, but my dad insisting that it was too much. So, yeah, there were struggles.
Excellent. Now, would your family talk about money? And I know that you already touched into that your mom would say that it was very little and your dad, but was it more about like maybe budgeting or just money in general?
Not much. My mom she was not good at saving. She didn't have a budget. She worked several jobs to try to make ends meet. So she really wasn't financially savvy.
What was your first interaction with money?
I would say understanding probably, other than the child support issue, was there was this major dichotomy between my grandparents. My grandmother on my paternal side was pretty wealthy. And on my maternal side, they were very, very poor. And so what I saw from that was the major difference in how society viewed them.
So you would sometimes get to go to one house and see one way and then go to the other one. It was completely different.
Yes.
Did you ever like wonder why it was that way, or was it more of like, oh, here's different houses?
Yeah. I at that age, I guess I didn't know, but I did feel more tension in the home where there wasn't as much money. A lot of fun and joy and happiness in the home where
That was my.
where you didn't have to really worry about the money.
All right. Would you say that there's like potentially a correlation between money and happiness, or how would you see it?
I think there can be. Yeah. I think it's easier for people to enjoy their lives, their free time, if they have some extra funds. I think if you constantly have to struggle, it can take an emotional and maybe even a physical toll on you.
Right. Absolutely. All right. We're going to go over our first section called Dollars and Cents. This is about behavioral questions to evaluate your money habits. We have picked 5 random questions. So question number 1 is, at what age would you like to retire? And I know that you already mentioned that you're retired, but before that, when you were still working, what was like the ideal age that you wanted to retire?
Yes, I definitely wanted to retire before the retirement age from 65. I did, for some reason, always see myself retiring somewhere around the age 50s. So that was my goal.
Wow. And hey, you actually did it. So,
But I love to stay busy. So I want to do something similar to, your ambition, something that's yours and you're doing and you want to do for the rest of your life because you're passionate about it.
Hey, I mean, you're a nurse. Maybe you could open a channel about that.
Right.
There's a lot of them that get a lot of attention. So
Sure. Yeah.
excellent. Question number 2 is, what is a small decision that impacted your whole life financially?
Boy, I would say one of them was that when I was working, I always contributed to my 401k, and I contributed at the highest amount so that the contribution would be matched. So I would say that was one small decision. But when it comes to finances, you know, it's hard to make a little decision because they all seem pretty important.
True. Oh, yeah. You used to match out your 401k.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that right now it's like 19,000, or it's like, it is between the 15 and the 20,000. How much was it back then that you were allowed to put on your 401k?
It was a percentage of each paycheck. So I would do the highest percentage, and I think at that time it was 15%.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty substantial. So I did have to learn how to budget, because I knew that was automatically going in. It was a direct deposit, so I knew that money was gone. And then I had to learn to live and finance with what I had left.
Yeah. Did anyone tell you like, hey, you should do this, or it was more about like your own idea to actually do it?
No, actually, I did most of the places that I worked, they always had an accountant or some type of finance person, and they would go over what was available. And so every time I would say, "Yep, I'm gonna do the max."
Wow. No, that's awesome. Usually a lot of people just look at their 401ks or their IRAs and they're like, what's the minimum amount that I can put,
Yeah.
And they don't really spend the time really checking even where their money's going. They're just like, hey, they might ask, like their partner or somebody like, hey, what do you have your money on? Oh, on this one. All right, I'll do the same thing. But you actually took the time. So
Yeah.
that's really good.
And he did, most of the places always did talk about where it would be invested. Is this the type of fund or whatever you want to be in? And there were options. So sometimes I would mix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, question number 3 is, what role does your credit score play in your financial decisions?
Well, it plays a huge part in my financial decisions. I've always maintained a high credit score because I never wanted to not be able to get a loan. And I've been able to do that. Sometimes I've had to do that by contacting the credit bureaus, yes, to maybe dispute transactions that are on there. And there had been some that didn't even belong to me. So that can be a convoluted process if you have to get in touch with them.
Wow.
But I've always done that. I've always had good buying power.
Question number 4 is, do you maintain an emergency fund, and how many months of living expenses does it cover?
Yes, I maintain an emergency fund, and it covers at least 1 month. But to be honest, it's probably more like 2 or 3.
Years. Nah.
Once.
Alrighty. And then question number 5 is, have you ever seen or encountered a keeping up with the Joneses situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my whole high school and college career, I watched my friends doing the keeping up with the Joneses. They were constantly spending money they didn't have. I think that pretty much all of my friends had a tremendous amount of credit card debt when they were finished with high school and through college. So,
do you recall what were some of the things that they would actually buy? Was it like shoes, or actually cars, jewelry,
cars, going out, just spending. I remember one time one of my friends insisted that they get a limo to go out. And I said, well, you can, but I'm not going to pay for it. And so, yeah, there was a lot of extra spending. I think some of my friends were used to their parents' financial situation, right? And when that didn't exist anymore, they felt the need to keep living that way, always living above their means.
Oh,
so.
Alrighty, so that concludes our dollars and cents section. Now, how would you describe your relationship with money?
I think I have a very positive relationship with money.
Absolutely. What is the best financial advice that you can give based on your personal experience?
Not to get into credit card debt. That's a major hole to try to dig yourself out of. One other thing I want to tell people to be aware of is pyramid schemes. They're out there, they're everywhere. And if you're not watching for that, yeah, you can really get sucked into that.
What is the worst financial advice that you have received or heard of?
Gambling to make big money fast.
It's a trap. All right. Are you comfortable with your current financial situation?
Yes, very.
All right, now we're going to go over a second section called Would You Rather. Let's go.
Okay.
Same thing, just 5 questions. Is either option A or option B. So, would you rather end student loan debt or credit card debt for everyone?
Credit card debt for everyone.
Why would that be?
Well, credit card debt, they're very high interest loans. If you had no credit card debt, you would have more money left to spend on paying down your student loans, which are much lower interest than credit card debt, and you'd be able to have a little more cushion in your financial situation.
Definitely. I mean, I think like when it comes to like a credit card, maybe the interest rate is probably going to be like 15.99 to like 23.99.
Yes.
But if we look at any conventional loan for school, I mean, it's probably like 2.5 to like,
Right.
I've seen some 6.5%, but the comparison is huge.
It is. It's huge.
I've never thought about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2 is, would you rather stay in your current job forever or change careers completely every year?
Stay in my current job forever.
Why would you do that?
I would do that because I would have the option to become vested uh, at my job, and I would keep contributing to my 401k, my retirement fund. I would have that stability. If I'm switching every year, I'm probably not gaining as much money in the end.
And you're going to have to do the in-kind transfer every single time
Yep.
from one provider to another.
Every single time. Yes.
Third question is, would you rather get $1 million right now or get 100,000 a year for the next 10 years?
Definitely $1 million right now. I could invest that money and I could probably earn $100,000 to $120,000 on the interest, which I could live on, and I wouldn't even have to touch the $1 million. But if I have the $100,000, I may get $4,000 a year. And I mean, you add that up over 10 years and it doesn't even touch what you can get from that initial $1 million.
Definitely. A lot of people see it as like, oh man, do I really trust myself with that $1 million? I'm probably going to blow through it. I'd rather just get it little by little. But I like how you have your plan. You know exactly where you want to allocate it, and then you'll just execute it.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Question number 4 is, would you rather have a monthly car payment of $1,000 or a $1,000 monthly student loan payment?
Definitely a student loan payment. Those auto payments are also, again, they're high interest loans. But the student loan, you can lower interest and you can easily pay it off versus the other.
Excellent. All right. And then the last question is, would you rather use a credit card or a debit card for every purchase?
I would rather use a debit card because I'm using only money that I have. When I'm using the credit card, I'm borrowing money and there's interest on top of that.
Okay.
So
what do you think about the approach of a lot of people that see like, oh, well, I'll just use a credit card and then I'll just pay it off at the end of the month? What do you think about that?
I think that's fine. I do that as well. So in all honesty, I use mostly the credit card only because I do pay it off every month. So and with the credit cards that I have, I get money back. So for each purchase that I make, I'm getting a little money back, which then I put back in my savings account. So
Definitely. All right. And that concludes our Would You Rather. Now, what is the best financial decision that you have ever made?
Wow, I would say rental properties was one of the best financial decisions I ever made. It really helped diversify what I invest in. And at the one time I had 9 units.
Wow.
And yeah,
How did you get started?
well, I actually took a small real estate course and really read and really investigated some of those techniques and then put them to work for me. And the first properties that I bought, 3 of the units already had tenants and 1 unit was where I lived. So I had money coming in from the other tenants, which paid the mortgage. Then that allowed me to gain equity in that property, and then I bought another one and did the same thing, and then another one and did the same thing.
So it was the house hacking with a 4-plex or a duplex.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you start with your first property?
So that was when I was 26. Wow. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, at that age, to have that knowledge of what you were able to do is just your goal, and then you actually executed that.
Yes. I think being able to take a risk sometimes also, it's scary. You're jumping off into the deep end, but if you educate yourself and you really can make a good financial decision and do something like that.
And just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it.
Now, what is the worst financial decision that you have ever made?
Um, Boy, at one point when I was just out of my undergrad, I had a house, a mortgage, a new car, student loans, and credit card debt. So that was a real eye opener for me. I ended up having to get 2 other jobs
Oh, wow.
temporarily, yeah, to try to pay down some of that debt. Then I ended up selling. So I sold the house, sold the car, and then was able to pay off the rest of my debt. And I never did that again.
Wow. How did you get into that? Well, I mean, you, of course, got your student loan first. And
Yes.
did you buy the house or the car first?
The house. Yes.
And then the car.
And the car.
What was the percentage of your check that was pretty much going towards all those payments?
Oh, it was more than just one check.
Wow. So we're talking about 100 plus.
Yeah. So that's why I had to get the other job.
And
Yeah.
after how long when did you realize that you're like, hey, you know what? This is not the lifestyle or like the pace that I should go?
Right. It was probably, I would say, not more than 6 months into the situation. And I was turning off utilities that I didn't need, like a phone and a cell phone. I was doing without things like that, doing without groceries. So yeah, I realized that was not a healthy situation.
Wow. You kind of went into like a survival mode of like, okay, what is the least amount of things that I need?
Yes.
So you look at your credits and your debits, and then
Yes.
I like how you really visualize your position, and then you create like a plan.
Yes.
You're like, hey, look, I'm in trouble. How can I get out of it? I need to get rid of this, and that. And within 6 months, you're out.
Exactly. Yeah. It was very overwhelming though. I was scared, and to be honest, yeah.
Was this before your first rental, or it was like on that time?
This was yeah, it was actually sort of right before that. Yeah.
So I mean, probably took like a couple of years, and then you went back into buying a house. But this
Yeah.
time,
Yes,
was
but not. Yes, but not the way I bought the first time. Yeah.
it was just like a single house, or
Yes, it was a single house. It was a 4-bedroom home. I mean, I was a single person. I didn't even need that. So,
you.
but it had a pool. Right? So it's like, oh yeah.
You were already thinking ahead of the game, you know? On your good side, I mean, you had a big house. You're like, hey, one day I'm going to have a family, and I already have a room for each kid.
Right. Yes. Right. I was a little ahead of myself on that.
Oh. If you could go back in time and change one financial decision, which one would it be and why?
It would be that.
Awesome.
Yeah. All taking on all that debt, thinking that making payments was a feasible option when it really isn't, when you get hit with the interest on top of that, and the interest on top of that, and on top of that, it adds up quicker than you think.
Excellent. All right, now we're going to go over our last section called What Do You Think? This one is opinions and thoughts on money. Same process, just 5 questions randomly generated. So the first one is, what do you think? Should couples share a bank account or have separate accounts?
Yeah. So I actually think either could be okay. The one downside, I think, if couples share is there may be one partner who wants to control the spending of the other, and that may not be well received by the other person. Sometimes it's easier to budget if you have separate accounts. So even 3 accounts, you can budget a little bit better that way. So I think either.
The second question is, what is a good age for kids to learn about money?
Oh my gosh. I think you can't start soon enough. A good way to do that is starting with an allowance if you do it the correct way. So allowances, the way I do it is they get a certain amount per month, and the way we've come up with that amount is they've had to look at their expenses, what they spend, and then they propose what they think an allowance amount should be. And we either agree or don't, and we come to a decision, but then that's it. What they get paid, there's no asking for any other thing. If they need a new winter coat or new boots, they have to have budgeted for that from what they get.
Wow.
So,
And that's amazing, honestly.
yeah, and they're getting pretty financially savvy.
That's good. Hey, maybe later on they'll be like, hey, guess what, Mom? I bought my first duplex.
Exactly, right?
The third question is, at what point in time should we move out of our parents' house?
Ooh, I think we should stay in our parents' house as long as we can. I think you shouldn't be in a hurry. I think you really need to be financially savvy and stable before you jump out of there, if your parents will let you stay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think like, school doesn't really do a good job, and a lot of parents are not very financial savvy, or they don't have that background.
Right?
So by allowing them to stay a little longer,
Yeah.
probably gives them that a little bit more security, and at the same time to actually try to visualize and learn those things, so that once they have to face the real world, they at least have like a thicker armor, to
Yeah.
defend themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Question number 4. What type of loans should be avoided?
Ooh, high interest loans, or disreputable lenders. That's a major problem. Yeah, but when you're getting into those high interest, that can really prevent you from financial freedom for a long time.
Can definitely set you back.
Yes.
All right, and then finally, and I think like you already answered this one, but question number 5 was, what are some of the challenges that couples face when merging finances? But you already
Oh, yeah.
mentioned
Yes. Yes.
that sometimes maybe one partner will control the other one.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
but I mean, besides that, have you seen anything else? I mean, I've seen couples that they're like, you know what? We decided to share, and then we noticed that it didn't work, and then we just decided to split. But then we decided that it was better to come back to it.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen people like that.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. No, I have not personally experienced that, but I can see that becoming a problem. And I think maybe that control of the spending might have led to that wanting a separation. But
All right. And then finally, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience? Do you have any final thoughts?
I guess just one thing is that there's such an issue in our country with higher education. Right now, like enrollment in colleges and universities is plummeting. We're finding employers who are willing to offer, high school grads 6-figure salaries with training, to come work for them. And I think something has to be done about that. And I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but it's really something that I think we need to take a look at.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please support the channel by subscribing, commenting, and liking the video. The question of the day is the following. Let me know your opinions, thoughts, comments, and constructive criticism in the comment section, and I will see you guys on the next video.